When you think of simple living, what comes to mind? Is it a quaint farmhouse with perfectly spaced vegetable beds? Maybe a peaceful life free from the chaos of the city? Or a life without a day job where you're working each day just to pay the bills? As we come up on our 3-year anniversary of taking the leap and moving out of the city to start our off-grid journey in Colorado, I've been thinking a lot about what being off-grid and living a simple life actually means. Years ago, when Brian and I started dreaming about what retirement might look like, buying our own land, building a house, there were plenty of other content creators doing those things and sharing them on the internet. As we searched for the right piece of land to call our own, we would watch hours of owner builders, many of them tiny homeowners, showing off always sparkling clean, clutter-free homes with veggie gardens and fruit trees outside that had nary a weed in sight. I just assumed that was the ultimate result of moving out of the city and into the country. You end up wearing cute sundresses, and every seed that you sow and loaf of bread that you bake, you end up just living the dream, free from the grind of modern society. I imagined a life of slow mornings and complete self-sufficiency. But as we dove into this journey, I started to realize that the dream that I had built in my mind just really wasn't so simple after all. I don't feel like I'll ever have that idyllic, simple life that I was dreaming about back before we started this journey. In fact, I think quote-unquote simple living is just a fantasy that we aspire to one day achieve. Let's talk about what the internet makes us think simple living actually is. You've probably seen videos of slow mornings, not rushing to work, simple pleasures like reading a book and enjoying a cup of tea or coffee, freedom from the crushing reality of capitalism, isolation from the modern world, living intentionally, going back to the old ways of living, whatever that means, avoiding the pressure of societal expectations, or practicing minimalism. Some of these are probably pretty darn good to aspire to. I, for one, would love if every morning was slowly paced, full of intentional routines and simple pleasures, instead of waking up early enough to get in a few non-negotiable well-being tasks right before I'm expected to clock into work for the day. We talk about the value of being intentional and choosing your life to fit your values on this channel quite a bit, so I feel like we're pretty aligned with that one. Where I think the fantasy of simple living comes in is when it's paraded around as a lifestyle choice, full of aesthetic video clips without the recognition of privilege and cost that it can take to reach those aspirations. Not always, but sometimes. We've heard time and time again that not everyone can just afford to buy land and move to the middle of nowhere. Not that we've ever said anyone should do the exact same thing we did, by the way, but it's true. Not everyone has the means to immediately act on their desires and align with a future state of purpose and intentionality. The truth is, we've had our own clear advantages. We were able to leave the city. We were able to start fresh. But even with that, the simple life is still more complicated than many expect. Some people don't have the luxury of working remotely either. That's certainly one of the main aspects of my career that has helped propel us forward to building our own house much sooner than the traditional retirement age. And then there's minimalism, another key component often associated with simple living. Well, I don't know if I could live off of a capsule wardrobe given the Rocky Mountains' extreme environment month to month, year over year, but I will say that downsizing to an RV really put into perspective what we actually needed to survive. Brian and I have been working to keep that perspective as we slowly decorate our home, again intentionally, and decide what we want to surround ourselves with. But, turning to the general population, how many of us can afford the luxury of escaping our daily lives? How do we balance these dreams with the realities of living in today's world? The truth is, the so-called simple life isn't always simple, and it's not something everyone can access. Not everyone has the privilege to pack up and move to a remote piece of land. It's just reality. We could turn Line Up the Stars into a simple living channel, and to be honest, there are some things that we'll have upcoming videos about that may feel like that. How to make sourdough bread, brewing your own kombucha, things that you can DIY to save some money. Partially, that's a sign of the times. Things are expensive. But what we've never wanted to convey in our videos is an illusion of ease or simplicity of implementation. Being a homesteader, what we tend to refer to ourselves as, is hard, and we picked a very intense, extreme place to do this life. The climate here really doesn't give us any favors, and building systems for self-reliance is incredibly difficult. Just go back and watch our videos about trying to get our solar array in, how deep we had to dig our well just to get water. So not easy things to achieve. We also rely heavily on our community and modern day services to live a quality life standard, something relatively comparative to what we would have gotten in the city. It would have been impossible to build this house without delivery services, for example. We try to get a lot of our food from local health food stores, hydroponic growers, organic co-ops, farmers markets. Not all of that is available in Westcliff, the closest little town to us. Affording these services and goods is only possible because I work full-time. Just a regular old 9-to-5 job. Maybe it just isn't possible to live a simple life like the internet wants you to believe. Maybe it is too. You can find a few people that it looks like they really are living that way, and they're sharing it online, trying to convince the rest of us that it's possible. I don't want to disagree with them. I just don't know if I personally can get to that point. But just because I don't think that doesn't exist, it doesn't mean something along those lines isn't possible. My vision of simple living has changed dramatically as I've learned skills and knowledge about what it takes to live the way I want to someday. It's probably not really about avoiding work or seeking perfection. It's about making a meaningful life out of the mess and the grind. We design our daily pastimes and our goals around our intentions and desires. We're learning how to make more things from scratch, not just to save money, though that is definitely a big driver, but in case we're snowed in and can't make it into town or a delivery gets lost or delayed. We're always thinking of ways to be more sustainable and healthy for ourselves and the planet. Because as the saying goes, health is wealth. And it's really hard to have the motivation to get up in the morning and live this type of life if you don't take care of your body and your mind as best as you can. So maybe this simple life isn't something you can just wake up and have. You don't have to move to the middle of nowhere and wake up in a flower field in a tiny home to live a simple life. But that doesn't mean we can't create something close to it, depending on what you really want to define simple living for yourself. My vision of simple living has evolved as I've learned and stumbled and grown. It's not about seeking perfection. It's about creating meaning in the everyday, no matter how messy or hard it is. Each step towards that is progress. So wherever you are in your journey, take that next step and start the process of lining up your stars to become the person you want to be. All that's to say, can you guys believe it's been 3 years since we left Tampa to move to Colorado, sold basically everything we owned, and moved into an RV for the next 2.5 years? I cannot. So thank you to everyone who stuck around for this journey, joined us along the way, and is still here watching this video. We appreciate you.